My favorite part of the show, the Auspicious Op-Ed. So I composed some words for everyone, and they meant something to me, and I hope they mean something to you. If all it means is that you want to get out and share some words of your own, please do. So here we go. The unrelenting progressive infantilization of young people that became the norm not too many years after my childhood is the root source of the nearly incomprehensible woke mind virus infecting the vast majority of people born after the early 80s. It is most unfortunate that most people I know who are younger than myself are ill-suited as peers because of how the changing child rearing dynamics instilled on those a few years younger than myself resulted in a stunting of their emotional and social learning to the point that they behave as middle schoolers while entering middle age. Now that I understand the socialist and communist undercurrents inflicted, especially on those holding degrees who hold left leaning values and books in a similar fashion to a religious zealot or cult member, in regards to addressing the matter of secular abuse to the mind, body, and spirit, is paramount. These influential figures impose themselves as some kind of moral authority over sophistication, while only now are we finally seeing the fruits of their sophistry come to harvest. I remember feeling very sorry for the kids I knew who were sequestered in isolation by both religious and secular idealists or iconoclasts. My lifelong spiritual journey may have never taken the form of atheism. I have clearly watched many an atheist behave in a religious fashion and make a false idol to worship and follow in the form of things, ideals, and teachings. I have also watched these atheists primarily place books, great leaders, and political platforms before God while declaring their supposed superiority over the power that placed them here, who they refuse to believe in, let alone understand they are an integral part of. Talk about killing God. Thankfully, there aren't enough of these types for this to be more than a nasty infection or wound on God. The absolutely ridiculous government mandated schooling was intended to cement this indoctrination, while the debt based slavery we call employment in this country furthered the hardwired notion to do anything for their lord, known as money, resulted in the exploitation of survival drives throughout the citizenry. Have these fools conflated survival with God? Are they so ravenously ego driven they impose domination and rule by furthering competition, rendering it more difficult to survive, so that they could not possibly think they'd be threatened by belief in God through a deliberate long game of stratification and planned obsolescence to force their artificial notion of caste and merit so intensely that it naturally ingrained to the psyche, then through culture? Do they know their godlike qualities they try to utilize, but fail in doing so, are a clear sign of their admission to being a part of God and his presence, while their defiance is what seals the deal to their suffering and strife? How is this permanent immaturity that is seemingly running rampant worldwide not rooted in rebellion against God and refusal of spiritual growth required to finish maturing as a person overall? The demand for sophistication results in retardation, and the proof is in the pudding. You see, to be sophisticated is to receive external validation from sophists. If you do not know what a sophist is, its roots lie in the youth of the classical world, where the elitists and aristocrats of their time, who were well versed in rhetoric but not critical thought and logic, would engage in political discourse full of fallacy and showboating. This act is known as sophistry, committed by sophists, which is the root source of where our term sophisticated comes from. Sophistry and sophistication are not virtues, but are upheld as virtues by the ignorant due to their sleek, refined veneer and illusory facet of affluence. To the untrained eye, these types may pass themselves off as wise, but if they interact with someone who holds true wisdom and virtue, they will be revealed as the shallow, superficial attention whores they attempted to conceal with weak, empty rhetoric. When these types get into an isolation tank, like college, graduate school, work, or other organizations, the condition further cements. It is far worse than you can imagine for their offspring and future generations brought up in this cycle of sophisticated mental abuse, also known as mental side. I grew up with kids who were free from this cycle of abusive sophistry until I myself reached double digits. Then sophisticated abuse was not only the norm, but it was encouraged by the strange parenting trend that they called helicopter parenting, which was a bane to the existence of big kids, teenagers, and cool people everywhere of all ages. Where did these parents learn to behave this way, you ask? Books and TV shows that promote books and experts as false idols, as the false idols they are, to further the sin of idolatry as a norm across the globe. The kids who were brought up strict with nothing but books and no freedom actually turned out much worse than the people who I grew up with, who just could be normal, or even the people who had religious abuse. And that's really sad, because at least in a home with religious abuse, there is still hope, because at least there is still religion. There's something to base hope on. And in a home where God is a myth that enrages the secular parent to high heaven, who wants to act like a god, the hope present in that home is going to be far less than in a religiously abusive home. So that's just something for everyone to think about. Books became gods. Experts became gods. Education became some weird god thing. It all became theology. Science became a religion. Isn't that something? Just some thoughts for everyone.